Good afternoon and welcome to the latest in our series of live careers webinars brought to you by the HOT platform. That's the Hertfordshire Opportunities Portal, and that is intended for any students at schools in Hertfordshire. We think this is a really useful tool for you to find out about a whole host of different careers that you may be interested in. Today's webinar is going to focus on careers in childcare. So I'm going to introduce you to our panelists very shortly. But the purpose of this webinar is to give you a much better insight into careers in childcare. So to find out what sort of qualifications you might need, the different access and entry routes into childcare, and then what an actual day in the life of somebody working in childcare actually looks like. And hopefully that's going to help you inform your decisions that you're about to make. So some of you might be about to choose GCSEs or decide what you're going to do at the end of year 11 or possibly even at the end of year 13. So we hope that this session will be really helpful. As I say, do have a look at the HOT platform though. Have a look at our social media handles that are displayed on your screen at the moment and our website as well. Just a bit of housekeeping, this session is being recorded live. Just to reassure you though, those of you in the audience at the moment, we can't see or hear any of you, but hopefully you can see and hear us. You do have the opportunity to interact with us though, and firstly, you've done really well to come home from school and to log on and to join this webinar and to invest a bit of time into thinking about your future. But you can go one step further than that by any questions that you think of. So anything that you want to know a little bit more about or you want a bit more guidance on, you can do that by asking questions. Now, the way you do that is over text. So on your dashboards in front of you on this piece of software, you'll see there's a tab that says questions. So if you click on the questions tab, it opens out a text box. In the text box, you could type in your question. That will only be visible to me, and then I can direct that question to the panelists that you want to ask that question to. So do use that opportunity to do that. As I said, this session is being recorded. If you can't stay with us through to the end of it, then we will have it up on our YouTube site from tomorrow morning, so you will have a chance to watch it back, or even if you want to then share it on with one of your friends or family members that you think might be interested in this as well, you can do as well. But look, without any further ado, I want to introduce you to our panelists. I'm expecting one more panelist to join us, so hopefully she'll be with us very shortly, but very pleased with the panelists that we have for you who can share their experiences with you today. So firstly, good afternoon and thanks so much for giving up your time today to Toyin. Toyin, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Okay, my name is Toyin Oshisanwo. I work for a private company, a training provider called Care First Training. I've been with them for 6 years now. But overall, I've been an assessor and a trainer, and I also head the department for childcare for Care First Training. So overall, I've been working for over 15 years in the childcare industry. Today I'm going to be talking about the apprenticeship program itself, the early years level 2 and 3, and also everything else that we do, and also go into details about what to expect from your apprenticeship program for those of you who are looking into going into apprenticeship. Thank you, Garrett.
Thanks so much, Toyin. Yeah, we're definitely lots of things that we want to ask you. And good afternoon, Johan.
Hi and hello everyone. So my name is Johan. I also work for Care First Training, so I'm a colleague of Toyin's. I work more for the recruitment side of things. So myself and my team, we help employers try and find apprentices, and we also help people in your position trying to find an apprenticeship, help them with the interview process, and really help them to start your journey onto the apprenticeship. So any questions you do have in terms of how to go about applying for an apprenticeship, feel free to ask me in today's webinar.
Thanks very much. So going through an apprenticeship is one route, a very credible route into the childcare industry. There are other routes which we will cover today, but you've got two real experts here. So Toyin actually has the industry experience. She's worked in childcare settings and has managed in those settings and now trains people so that they're ready to go in there. And so Johan's role is he's more involved in that recruitment side of it. So if you're looking to go into this industry, you will be meeting people like Johan, who are the people who are going to be testing whether they think you're suitable to get onto the courses in the first instance. So what I'd like to do first of all then is just have a bit of a conversation about what we actually mean by childcare. So I think probably in my mind, I'm thinking about somebody who works in a nursery, and I've had children who fairly recently have gone to nursery before they went to school time. But can you just explain what we mean by childcare and perhaps any other roles within that industry that might be worth just referencing at this point?
Okay, so yeah, a lot of people tend to think that when you talk about childcare, it's just people working in nurseries, but not at all. Anyone working on that with children, especially in the early years from 0, so when I say it's like babies to age 8, we refer them as childcare workers or child carers or nursery nurses or preschool workers. So it's not just nurseries. You can work in a preschool. And as you know, some preschools, the hours are just during half term. It's not full-time hours. It can be half term only, and maybe one day off during working hours. So and then you have people that work in the children's center as well. And you know, in the children's center, they also have different departments and different aspects to it as well. Then you have people that want to work in schools. For those of our learners that we have on the apprenticeship program during level 2 and 3, they also work in schools. So we do have apprentices that work in primary schools. So when you say schools, mostly reception class because they're still using the EYFS. Then you have learners that, although we don't have presently, that work with children, and you could be working with children, remember I said from 0 to age 8. So it can be after school clubs as well. Yeah, so you might be working in an after school club because that is your choice. You might be working in a creche. You might be working even in a play center. I've had students that have worked in play centers as well, where they work with children from 0 to 5-year-olds, and also different industries, like I said, where you have children working from 0 to age 8. So you have loads of vast choices and experience that you can get in the childcare industry itself. Thank you, Gareth.
Sure. Okay. Do you know what? So most of these questions I think are going to be directed at you because you're the real expert in here because you've done it. I mean, tell us. So if we're thinking about someone who works in a nursery setting, because again, that's probably the one that most typically people will be interested in. I mean, tell us what does an average day in the life look like for someone working in a nursery setting? I mean, and talk to us from the moment they arrive at the nursery in the morning to the point they go home. What sort of things are they going to be doing?
Okay, so at the end of the day, it's going to be the position you have been, what role you've been given at the nursery. If you are not experienced, your role will be different from someone that is definitely experienced working in the nursery. So a typical day for an apprentice, especially for a new apprentice who's just starting the apprenticeship, will be training as an apprentice. So they will not be counted as part of the ratio. So, but they will be trained in everything else they do in the nursery. They'll have a mentor who's going to mentor them on their apprenticeship program so that they can start getting the experience from day one. So like I said, every nursery is different. There's some nurseries that everything like an experienced staff will be doing is what you're being trained at. And there's some nurseries that will only train you on the aspect of the qualification you're doing. For instance, if you start with a level 2. So you're going to be making sure that you're definitely performing everyday routines and duties like everybody else, which is like setting up activities for the children, taking care of their personal needs, which comes to feeding, taking care of them if they need potty training, nappy changing, but nappy changing is only if you have a DBS, which I will go more into details later. So for you to work in the childcare industry anyway, you have to have a DBS. This is when they check if you have any criminal record whatsoever. So this is very, very important. You cannot work with children in any industry whatsoever if you don't have this. So this is one of the first things that an employer will be definitely getting for you, and also getting references as well. So it's very important that you know what you're aiming for, what do you want to do. It's not just thinking that, oh, I love children, I want to go into the childcare industry. There's more to that. You're going to be doing a lot of work. You're going to be doing a lot of doing long hours. Some of our learners are doing 30 hours, some of them 40 hours. And remember, because you're doing the apprenticeship program, you're going to be working and learning at the same time. So you need to make sure that you have time to prepare and do the work that is given to you, and make sure that you're completing your task at nursery. So you're getting the knowledge aspect of the qualification. You're also getting the physical experience that you need to improve your skills, so that at the end of the day, you can come out with the certificate that you need to say that you're an experienced practitioner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fine. I'll let you take a breath, Toyin, before I ask you my next question. So, look, I mean, from your own experiences of being in that nursery setting, what do you think? What's the most enjoyable part of the job? What do you think nursery nurses, really enjoy? What's the thing that they go home about and have a real glow and a real buzz about?
The children. You have to have a love for children to work in the industry, because they just make you happy. It's just something about working with children that just brightens your day. So you need to know that as soon as you come into the door in the morning and you start receiving those children, there's a smile on your face. And not just for the children, but their parents as well, because you're working in partnership with their parents. So it's very important that you understand this role, that you're not just there to look after the children, you're there to also support the children and also support their parents, because you're going to have children that might have additional needs as well, or children that have one aspect or the other that they need your help and support that you need to be trained at. So it's a lot of aspects to working in the childcare industry, not just having the love of working with children, but that is very, very important. You need to know that this is what you want to do. Yeah, Gareth?
Sure. Okay, thank you. Now we're joined by Sharon. Good afternoon, Sharon. Delighted to have you on the webinar with us today. I mean, firstly, do you just want to give everybody an introduction and explain your role and your background as well? Because I think that's really interesting as well.
Yeah, sorry, apologies for the delay. I've had a bit of a nightmare of an afternoon. So I'm the curriculum area manager for childcare and health and social care over at Hertford Regional College. We run childcare courses from level 1 right up to level 5, so just before those wanted to go and do the last year of their degree. My background is predominantly kind of childcare, health and social care. I've worked for social services in terms of working with looked after children that have got additional needs. I've worked in a variety of kind of childcare settings and kind of run my own business for a while in terms of children's activity classes and those kind of things. I was actually a student at Hertford Regional College as well, just a few years ago, and now kind of and that's where I got kind of my experience that took me to work within the childcare industry, and now obviously head up that team. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, really.
Sure. So, Sharon, it'd be really interesting to talk to you in a little while about the different routes into childcare, and of course, Toyin and Johan will talk more about the apprenticeship routes. But very keen to hear about the different ways that people can access the industry via college. Toyin, you just spoke about the nicest parts of the session. It was a really warming answer you gave. Actually, it's that glow you get from working with children. But tell us about some of the more challenging aspects of the role. So, I mean, you spoke about nappies earlier, which was the first thing that came to my mind. But what are the really challenging things working in that nursery environment?
Okay, the long hours, I would say. Yeah, a lot of apprentices, when they start, the long hours can be a lot for them, especially if they're doing 40 hours a week. And remember, because the work is shift, some of them will be starting as early as 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and some of them might be finishing as late as 6:30, 7 in the evening, because there's clean up to it as well. So it's not just you looking after children. Remember I said there's other duties you're going to be performing within the nursery. So most nurseries will have rotas of those who will come in early to clean up, set up the environment for the children, do the risk assessment, and this will be done after working hours as well. So it's not just don't look at childcare as I'm going to be sitting down with children, setting up activities, doing indoor or outdoor activities with them, reading to them, doing circle time and things like that. You're also going to be doing a lot of documentation as well. You're going to be writing observations. You're going to be planning the activities you want to do with them based on what you've observed. So there's a lot of, as a key worker, especially when you become a key worker, there's a lot. You might have up to 10, 13 key children, and you have to make sure that each of these children are progressing in the EYFS. So there is a lot to it. So look at it as a package altogether, that you're gaining an experience in an industry that you love and also want to work and get the experience that you need to further your career. Thank you, Gareth.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Sharon, now the students that you have on your courses at HRC, I know that they spend most of the time in college, but they also do spend days actually out in industry. What sort of feedback are you getting from them? What are the things that they're telling you they really enjoy, and what are the things that they perhaps tell you, oh, that's actually more difficult or more challenging than I thought it was going to be?
Yeah, I mean, all of our students at level 2 and level 3 do 3 days a week in college, but then spend the other 2 days a week working in a placement. So they will be in a preschool, a nursery, a primary school, local to where they live. And they work in conjunction with our placement coordinator to find those settings. The things that they obviously really enjoy is the interaction with the children, the interaction with the parents, kind of seeing the relationships develop with those children and themselves. They tend to stay in that placement for the duration of the year. So they might change age ranges, or they might work in a slightly different capacity, but they do tend to stay in that setting for the duration of their course. So they do really get to know the other professionals that they're working with. They get to know all of the children in the setting, and like Toyin said, in terms of the key children role, the longer they're there, they do tend to get kind of a small group of children that they are working to support in terms of monitoring their development and really being involved in their pathway and their journey through their early years education. I think one of the things that they probably find most challenging initially to start off with is their health. They do tend to, the students tend to pick up every cough, cold, you know, their immune system really takes a battering that first year. They pick up everything that the children have, and that's quite tough for the students. They have to kind of, where before they may have not gone to work or come into college because they felt a bit unwell, if they took off a day every time they felt a little bit unwell in their first year of working in childcare, they wouldn't go to work. So it is that kind of, we do a lot of work with them beforehand. You know, they don't generally go in until after October half term, so we're kind of ramming in the importance of their diet, importance of getting lots of vitamins so that they can build up their immune system to help them kind of tackle some of those issues. I think one of the other things that they maybe come in with a little bit of a preconception is that they are just going to be sitting and playing with the children. They don't really appreciate all of the work that goes in behind the scenes in terms of kind of setting up, clearing away activities, you know, some of the less glamorous tasks, you know, associated with working with children, that they will come home covered in snot and paint and food, and, you know, they'll find remnants of stuff in their hair when they've got home, you know, pasta shells, all that kind of stuff where they maybe didn't really anticipate. But I think what they soon recognise is that actually that's what helps them bond with the rest of the team. That's what really shows the setting that they are a team player, and those kind of settings don't work unless everybody is kind of prepared to roll their sleeves up and kind of get on with the job in hand. And the, you know, the lovely bits are sitting with the children, reading them stories, doing activities with them, taking them out in the garden or on trips and stuff. But actually the vast majority of their day is kind of spent setting stuff up and clearing it away.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, they very quickly do get settled into that routine because it is very structured, but sometimes that's a structure that they're not really very used to.
Sure. Yeah, no, okay, no. So just for those of you that are watching this live at the moment, you do have the opportunity to present your own questions or anything that you want to know or want to know more about. Toyin and Sharon are giving you some really, really valuable knowledge and insights here into what either they've been through themselves or what the students that they've got working for them at the moment are going through. So do put those questions in. The way you do that is on the questions tab that pulls out a text box, and then you can ask your question in there. It's only visible to me, and then I'll direct it to the relevant panelists that we have on here. Okay, just going to move the conversation on now. I think this is a really, really significant part here. Looking at the people that I know are watching this at the moment, looks like they are mostly year 10 or 11 students. I think we have probably got some sixth form students in here as well. So when considering your next steps that you're you're going to be doing. Johan, let me bring you in first of all, just to think about when we recruit people onto apprenticeships. At what age would you be looking to recruit someone potentially onto one of your programs?
Right, so anyone of the age of 16 and above can apply for apprenticeships and can start an apprenticeship. So generally we would say as soon as you're getting close to the end of school and tests or GCSEs, start applying because we can start the screening process, potentially organising interviews even before you finish school, ready to start in the new year. So most of our employers, so mainly nurseries who are looking to recruit apprentices, are looking to start immediately, but they do also accommodate for people who are planning for the next 2 or 3 months to start an apprenticeship. So we've had a few people who've still been in school, gone through the interview process while at school and been offered a position ready for September or whenever they're ready to start. So as soon as you're getting close to the end of school, getting close to 16, you can start applying for apprenticeships. Gareth, I think frozen.
Oh, I think we might have a little bit of a technical issue there.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would say.
I'm still here. Yeah, keep on going.
What I would say in terms of our courses, again, a bit like Johan, is the majority of our students start when they reach kind of 16, so they finish year 10, year 11, and then they come to us for their post 16 education. But we'd offer courses at all different levels, so regardless of kind of where you finish in terms of your GCSE qualifications, we've got courses where you can start at any point. Obviously, to get to be kind of a qualified practitioner, and to have your license to practice, you do need to have your maths and English at a grade 2, whether that's an apprenticeship or whether that's kind of a full-time program with us. You do still need to be able to demonstrate those skills in English and maths up to a grade 4 in GCSE. So it's really important, those of you that are at school at the moment, to really concentrate on those areas of your studies, because that potentially will limit how far you can go in childcare if you don't manage to succeed in terms of getting those. We do offer English and maths alongside our courses, so if you don't manage to get your English and maths before you come to us, you know, we can put you on a level 1 or a level 2 course, and you can be supported to achieve those whilst you're on programme.
Yeah, just to confirm as well, for apprenticeships, exactly the same. If you haven't achieved them already, it's part of the course. But if you have achieved them, then great, less work for you to do whilst you actually start the childcare side of things. So yeah, we also start at any point during the year. So if you do fancy taking some time off and then start looking, that's up to you, but you can start at any point as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, I mean, just exploring the routes that you've got there, because I know some schools will offer a childcare course, something related to CPLD, and of course, there's very good reasons why you might want to stay at school, and you might want to do that course, because of course it allows you to do other subjects at the same time. You might just really enjoy the environment that your school provides for you. But I'm going to give you both an opportunity to sell your own different routes. But Sharon, why would you recommend that somebody come to college? And so, just before you answer that, I'm just going to say that I know that our people watching at the moment, there are some people from Watford, where West Herts might be their local college. Looks like there's some people from schools in Stevenage on here as well, who have got North Herts College. We have Oaklands College, and I know that all 4 colleges in Hertfordshire do offer childcare courses. But Sharon, of course, you're going to fly the flag for Hertford Regional College. I think we have got some students from Gotham watching at the moment who will consider very carefully there. But what's the advantage, do you think, of coming in, particularly to HRC, and learning about childcare in that college setting?
Yeah, I think the big thing to consider is if you are wanting to come in to do your level 3, so if you've got your GCSEs grade 4 or above, and you've got kind of 5 of those, and they include your English and maths, your school might be saying to you that, you know, you can stay and do a childcare qualification with them, and then you can also do some additional, so an English or, you know, a different A-level option, or another kind of vocational qualification. What you need to consider is, because you're doing 3 different subjects, the size childcare qualification you do will only be equivalent to 1 A-level. And whilst that's a great starting block, that won't give you your license to practice. So if you want to be able to go straight out into industry once you finish your 2 years at sixth form, that childcare qualification won't give you a license to practice, so you won't be able to go in as a level 3 practitioner. Whereas with the level 3 qualifications we do, because they're full level 3 qualifications, they're equivalent to 3 A levels. You have to have your maths and English equivalent to to a level 2 or to a GCSE grade 4 or above. You then automatically get a license to practice, so you can go straight into a setting and you can work as a level 3 qualified early years practitioner, and you would be able to take on the role of having key children. You will kind of be on the first rung to kind of more of a managerial role within that setting. So that's fundamentally kind of the difference at the top level of our qualifications that is different in terms of what you will be offered at school. So if you absolutely know you want to go into a childcare setting, be it a nursery, primary school, preschool, and you know that's what you want to do, then that kind of gives you a better direct route in and much more acceptable in terms of what employers are looking for. Also, you still have the same opportunities in terms of progressing to university. There are UCAS points equated to the level 3, the same as they would be if you did 3 straightforward A levels. So you can progress on to children's nursing, you could go into primary school, primary education, you could go into kind of early years and go up to level 4, level 5 practitioner. So, you know, you still have the same options to progress on afterwards as you would do if you stayed on at sixth form to do A levels and then a childcare qualification at the same time.
Sure.
I think also in terms of the, sorry, just say about the level 1 and level 2, those are good transitional programs. So actually, if you don't quite get where you need to be at the end of your school, your statutory education, you can come and start that journey with us at level 1 and level 2, and you can move up and we will support you. And what you also get if you are obviously doing a level 1 or level 2 is you get extra work experience, and you get another year of being in the setting. And a lot of our students at level 2, if they decide to hop off, then they might decide to actually they want to go on to do an apprenticeship for their level 3. They may be offered that opportunity in the setting that they're actually doing their placement in. Alternatively, if our students at level 3 don't want to go on to university, quite often they will finish the course on the Friday and they will start in employment in their nursery where they're working on the Monday, because you know the nurseries recognise how well they're working, they're fitted in, they're part of the team. It's a really nice transition, so all of our students have a positive outcome, whether it's straight into employment or onto university or higher education.
Sure. Okay, that sounds like some very good reasons why people should seriously consider looking at the colleges that are nearby them and seeing exactly what their courses offer. So, well, look, Toyin and Johan, over to you. I mean, how would you sell an apprenticeship? I guess particularly through you guys at Care First Training, but how would you sell an apprenticeship as opposed to going on to college or staying at school?
Sure.
Johan, you can start with the funding.
I'll take that. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, first of all, apprenticeship. This is just another option really for students who want to study childcare. I don't really like saying like competing against college or anything like that. It's just another option because what we've noticed is people that who want to do an apprenticeship are people who maybe don't want to be in a classroom setting, but still want to learn, still want to get a qualification and get the experience. So I would say the biggest difference really is, I know Sharon mentioned maybe a 3-day in classroom, 2 days in the actual setting. The way we deliver training or the apprenticeships is full-time in employment, but there will be time set aside during the working hours for you to do your apprenticeship work, which is 20% of your working hours. Yeah, so the duration of the course tends to be about 12 to 14 months as well. One of the differences is that you're getting the experience, you're also getting paid, and you're also getting a qualification. So there is an apprenticeship minimum wage, which is lower than a national minimum wage. And what tends to happen is the employers, if you are a brand new apprentice, will start the position at a apprenticeship wage, and through progression, through commitment, and then the longer you stay with that employer, they will increase that wage, aligning it with the rest of their company and their policy. So there are differences, and apprenticeships really tend to be for people who want to be hands-on pretty much all of the time, but still have some time set aside during the working hours for them to do the apprenticeship work, so the assignments and any kind of uploading of work onto the portal.
Okay. What I'm keen to find out now, we've spoken about qualifications, and you both said that if you don't get those English and maths qualifications in your GCSEs, you still will have the opportunity to go back, but you will need to do them as part of your course. But aside from the qualifications, Sharon, if someone was applying to come on one of your courses, what are the sorts of skills and qualities that typically they would have, or you'd look to try and develop to make them ready to go into that workplace?
Yeah, I think there's kind of two kind of pathways really that we focus on. Obviously, there's their academic skills in terms of writing assignments, writing things from a vocational perspective are very different to what they will have done at school. And I think that applies whether you do an apprenticeship or whether you come to college, the style in which you need to produce your work and the way that you need to relate your practice, so what you're doing in the setting, that needs to come across in your written work. That's what you're kind of basing all of your assessments on, whether it's written or whether it's verbal or whether it's an observation. So we have to kind of develop their skills in order to be able to highlight what they do in practice and relate that back to the theory that we're teaching them. So being really critical of their own kind of strengths and weaknesses. They also obviously have to be, you know, we want mature, responsible kind of young people that, you know, they are going into an industry where they are going to be responsible for other people's most precious, you know, thing. You know, that, you know, you leave your child at nursery in the morning and you trust those people to do the right thing by them. So it's really important that the students understand the importance that they play in terms of being a role model, in terms of kind of leading by example, and being able to kind of demonstrate empathy and compassion. Some of those children may not want to be left there in the morning. They might prefer to be at home with their parents. And you have to be able to kind of get down onto their level and, you know, make them feel comfortable and support them to kind of transition safely into that setting. And so they have to kind of be able to take themselves out of the situation and really focus on the needs of the people that they're working with. And that's quite difficult as a young person. We are quite egocentric still at 16, 17. You know, the world does revolve around us a little bit, but actually when we're in that setting, it very much is about the child being at the centre of everything that they do. And whether you're having a bad day or not, that's not the child's issue, that's not the child's problem. You still need to make sure that, you know, you are there to support them and you are there to make sure they're making the right developmental, they're meeting their developmental milestones, that they are developing the skills that they need in terms of being able to communicate with their peer group, being able to share, being able to kind of build those effective relationships. And we have to make sure that our students role model that and have the skills to be able to do that at the same time.
Yeah, sure. So that's a really good answer, Sharon. Johan, now applying for an apprenticeship is a competitive process, or at least it's likely to be. So not everyone who applies is going to get a place on a programme. So how can someone make themselves stand out to you? What sorts of things would you be looking for, either in an application or when you first meet someone, to think that actually they're going to be really suitable for this programme and could do really well in this industry?
Sure. So really, when we're screening people, when we are speaking to people over the phone, it's really to show an enthusiasm for childcare, having a bit of knowledge about what to expect on a day-to-day basis, asking questions, just being generally interested about what the role's going to be, and also ask a few questions potentially about how the apprenticeship and the qualification will be delivered. Having done a little bit of research potentially on specific employers or nurseries that are looking is always beneficial. The employers and the nurseries that we work with understand that you will potentially have little or no experience in the industry, so they don't expect you to know everything. So as I said, it's really just showing an interest, being positive, and attending the interview and answering the questions as best as you can. We know it can be a little bit scary attending an interview. I mean, it's still scary now, so let alone at your first or second interview. So we try and prepare everyone, try and make them understand that it's more of a informal chat showing your interest rather than anything you would see on TV, it could be very scary. So just generally be interested and ask questions, and do a bit of research beforehand. That's what I would suggest to everyone.
Yeah, okay, good advice. Toyin, anything that you could suggest here? What would make someone stand out to you? How do you know that you've got a really good student working with you?
Okay. So usually it's actually when you first do the first what we call session, because once they're enrolled on the apprenticeship, which is what Johan has explained, then they are allocated to us as tutors. So we get the email that we have this particular learner in this nursery. We get in touch with that nursery, introduce ourselves to the manager and the learner. Then the first session is booked. So the manager are the ones that give us the day and time that is suitable for them. It might be a morning session they're going to attend with us, and our sessions are always 2 hours, which is once a month. So it can be a morning session, it can be in the afternoon, and it's online, just like we use Zoom, we use Microsoft Teams. In the past, before the pandemic, we went regularly into nurseries, but when the pandemic started, most of our teaching now are online. So we do go into nurseries when we can, if they allow us to, because some nurseries are still not letting parents or staff, people like us in. So when we can, because they have to do tests, like Johan mentioned, if they don't have GCSE Maths and English A to C, and they're doing and they're not exempted from Maths and English, they have to do Maths and English as part of their qualification, Maths and English Functional Skills Level 2. So, and that means that you're doing a test as well. And they have to do this because the way the apprenticeship program has changed now, both for Level 2 and 3, at the 3 months before their end dates, which is about 14 months of their program, they have to do an exam, which we call the endpoint assessment. So we have to go in to do the test. So there's 2 ways we do the test. If you're Maths and English, your test has to be done, and you have to pass the Maths and English to be able to do your final exams. For Level 3, they have to have first aid, pediatric first aid as well as part of the criteria for their exams. So they attend regular monthly classes with us. And one thing we do again to support our learners is that they have additional support classes, because sometimes from day one we get learners saying that, oh my God, I'm not good at mathematics at all. I have a phobia for mathematics. English is my second language. I don't know how to, spelling and grammar is not very good. This we support them through this, because what we've started doing, and we've been doing for years now, is extra support classes. So every Friday, we have classes for group of learners at 10 o'clock for the Level 2s, and for the Level 3s at 11 o'clock. So this group of learners have their own teacher, who is a functional skills teacher, that supports them with maths or English. The tutor does this every month already, but this is now an extra support class that they're entitled to attend as well. We also do support classes as per what the exam entails. So when they get to the 9 months of the program, we invite them to the class workshop to learn more about what to expect from their exams. So there's loads of support. Learners are not left on their own. There is support from day one. We do our job, and we want our learners to do well. So we do everything that it takes to make sure that we support our learners so they can get the passes or distinctions at the end of the day. So like Sharon and Joanna said, it's your choice at the end of the day, whether you want to go through the college aspect or you want to go through the apprenticeship aspect. At the end of the day, what do you want to do? You love working with children. This is something you've always thought of. Then I'll say give it a try and see which one works for you. Thank you, Garrett.
Sure. Okay. I've noticed there's some questions that are coming in, some really interesting questions, so I'm going to come to them very, very shortly. Just finally, before I go on to those questions, though, just want to think about the prospects for childcare. And Sharon, let me come to you first. Can you just reassure everyone that this is a job that there is going to be huge demand for, particularly in Hertfordshire?
Yeah, I mean, we've never struggled to find students placements. We've never struggled to find students, you know, for them to find work afterwards. There does tend to be quite a high staff turnover, within childcare settings, so people do move around quite a lot and go from different settings. I think also off the back of the pandemic, we now need to have more staff in settings because we have higher staff sickness where people are obviously being affected by COVID. So organisations now have to have more staff on hand because able to cover that staff sickness. I think the other thing, we've been able to see through the pandemic is the careers where actually nothing, there was a constant. Childcare settings were still open, even at the height of the pandemic. They were still vital to the running of the country, because actually if the childcare settings hadn't been open, our key workers wouldn't have been able to go and carry on doing their job. People wouldn't have been able to go, to work in the supermarkets. So nurses, doctors, paramedics, without that childcare setting, we can't function as a society. So many families now, both parents have to work in order to financially provide for themselves and for their children. More and more nurseries now are having to open up spaces because both parents are having to work in order to be able to provide for themselves. That's only going to get worse as we move through the year, when we see an increase in kind of fuel bills and that kind of stuff, where more people are going to have to go back to work, and therefore we're going to need more childcare practitioners. It's something that has always been a constant. Our numbers every year in terms of childcare and health and social care, to be fair, are pretty consistent, because there has to be a constant turnover. We have to be feeding the market with a certain number of students, a certain number of new staff coming through, in order to sustain the number of children that need to be in those environments. I think the other thing as well is more children with special educational needs are now kept in mainstream education, which is absolutely the right thing to do and where they should be. But that means we have to put more resource now into mainstream education in order to be able to support those children. And therefore some of our students can go into those kind of one-to-one support and mentor roles when they leave college. So it isn't just about kind of that generic, I'm going to go and work in a nursery. The opportunities are much broader now in terms of the kinds of roles that young people with an early years qualification can actually go and do.
Yeah, and that's a really good segue there, Sharon, into a question that's just come in, which I think I'll ask now because it sort of links into the final thing I was going to ask you. Thinking about different routes you could go into, so we're saying predominantly we assume a lot of people will want to go into a nursery setting, but there's a few questions coming in about becoming a primary school teacher. So what sort of grounding would that give someone who wants to then become a primary school teacher by studying childcare at college first of all, Sharon?
I mean, definitely it is the ideal route. Whilst I don't think, I'm not rubbishing A levels at all. Everybody needs to have their own choice. But if you are going to work in a primary school, you're never going to get better experience than working in a nursery or working alongside a primary school teacher, being able to see actually what that role entails, what the expectations are from organisations around that role as a primary school teacher. It's a big job. There's a lot of responsibility that goes with being a primary school teacher, and being able to work alongside someone doing that role, you can be really vital. I think every primary school teacher would love to have a student in there every day with them that could support them to do what is an enormous job. And so lots of our settings are kind of falling over us to kind of get students in there, because they are invaluable in terms of the role that they play. Managing behaviour in a primary school is one of the biggest challenges for a primary school teacher. They're trying to teach the children all of the things they need to learn in terms of meeting their milestones and making sure that they're at the right stage for their educational development. But actually we've seen for children, particularly off the back of the pandemic, they've been stuck at home for a long time with their parents educating them. And whilst we've all tried to do a really good job in educating our own children, just because we're teachers and we can educate other people's children doesn't mean we're very good at doing that for our own. And having to get them back into that routine of being back in school and being taught in that manner that's face to face, a bit more interactive, having to kind of develop those relationships again with their peers, you know, it's a really challenging job. So if you can have some work experience where you've supported primary school teachers to be able to do those kind of things, when you go off to university to do your teacher training, you will have so many more skills and be so much better informed than maybe your peers who have come from the straightforward A-level route that maybe haven't had any education. I think it's important to say as well that a lot of universities now are stipulating that you have to have had 2 weeks work experience in a primary school setting, and that will be part of your interview. So if you haven't had that exposure, you're going to struggle in that interview because you haven't got anything to talk about, or you haven't got any experience directly in that industry to back it up.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Toyin, from your perspective, someone who maybe one of your apprentices who's gone in, they've started working in a nursery setting. What's the natural progression from there? Are they likely to work their way up to become maybe a room manager or management, or will they sometimes go into different fields?
Okay, good question. Yeah, remember, if they start with level 2, and they'll definitely want to continue to their level 3, so they'll still be working in the same nursery. Even if they decide to go to another nursery after completing the level 2 apprenticeship, they will continue to level 3. And now we even have level 5s. So in the past, I've had learners that have finished level 3 and actually become room leaders themselves. I've got learners that have become deputy managers themselves. I've got few that have actually even become managers and even gone to university as well to do an early years degree. So there is so much opportunity out there, and apprenticeship gives you that opportunity and that choice to make, to know that, okay, I've done this now, what else can I do to further my career? So these are the information, advice and guidance that we give them when they finish their apprenticeship, to give them that there is more that they can do with the qualifications that they've gained.
Sure. Okay. I've got a couple of questions on that. Sorry, yes, go on, Johan, please.
Yeah, very briefly. Yeah, childcare level 2, level 3 is obviously up to level 5 is the progression. We've also had students who've gone on to doing a teaching assistant apprenticeship as well. So they've kind of seen the younger years, 0 to 5, and then they want to progress on becoming a teacher. And the natural step really would be a teaching assistant level 3 apprenticeship that we do. And then once again, more of a teaching qualification, higher qualification probably after that as well.
Yeah, good. Okay, I've got a couple more questions that have come in here. Really, if you've got any more questions that you want to ask to our panelists, this is your last chance to get them in. There's been some really good ones that have come in so far. Do that on your questions tab, type your question and it comes through to me and I can direct it. So a question here: is doing babysitting for my cousin classed as good work experience if I was going for an interview? What do you think, Sharon? Babysitting, is that a good grounding?
I think any exposure that you can get to small children in whatever format, we know at the moment it's very difficult because settings are being quite restricted in terms of who they can have in. And so I think any experience you can get, particularly if you are 14, 15, you're going to be limited to what experience you can actually get your hands on. So babysitting's great. If you can maybe do some stuff during the school holidays with the children where you're kind of a bit more active with them rather than just kind of sitting there and kind of just putting them to bed, that kind of stuff. If you can be a bit more involved in their kind of the activities that they may do, yeah, I think definitely any experience is always better than no experience.
Sure. And does that ring true for you guys as well, Johan? Babysitting is seen as a really valued experience?
I was going to say, from a recruitment side of things, so one of the questions we asked them as part of the screening would be, what kind of experience do you have? And majority of candidates or potential apprentices will say babysitting, which is great. Just as long as you can kind of elaborate on what you were doing, the tasks that were done, and the potential outcomes or reasons why you were doing certain things, that's perfect for an interview situation as well. So as long as it's not just I did babysitting full stop, if you can expand on that and explain what you were doing, that's exactly what a nursery or an employer would be looking for someone starting an entry apprenticeship.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that, you know, it's not necessarily about what you've done as work experience, it's about whether you can relate those skills to what you're going to be doing when you're in post. So it might be that actually you just help your parents with your younger siblings, and you maybe sit and do their homework with them, or, you know, you take them to some of their classes that they do at the weekends or stuff like that, where it's about you being able to relate what you've done there to what you're going to be doing in the setting, so that you're demonstrating that you can effectively communicate with children, that you understand that there are, you know, goals that they need to hit, that actually, you know, their milestones are important, that understanding that they feel safe and secure. So it's more about being able to relate what you know to the setting, as opposed to actually demonstrating how you've done it.
Sure, okay. Well, that's actually a good lead into the next question. This may well be the last question we've got as well. Toy, and I'll ask you first of all, then I'll come to Sharon. Is there a lot of theory to learn before you actually go out and start working in nurseries?
No, because on the apprenticeship, these are all the things that we're going to actually teach them anyway. They're going to be learning about theories, how to apply it to their work role. And at the end of the day, remember, they're going to be getting the skills that they need from work as well, where we're impacting the knowledge as well. So don't worry about that aspect yet. This is what we're going to teach you. And that's why I said that everything you're going to be taught. And if you work in a nursery whereby they're very buttressed on training, you will get the training that you need. So everything works hand in hand together. You just need to know that, okay, this is what I need to do to achieve the qualification at the end of the day, and you should be able to achieve that qualification.
Sure. Sharon, anything to add for that, particularly through some of the courses you deliver?
Yeah, I would say when you get up to level 3, there's far more theory involved. We are looking at the theories behind the different types of play and the different kind of models that we use in terms of managing behaviour, in terms of the teaching styles that we use. So there is a lot of theory, but all of that theory will be related back to what you are doing in practice, so that you can make the links between why we're teaching you what we're teaching you.
Sure. Okay. Well, I hope that answered that question. I haven't seen any more questions come in, so I assume anything that you wanted to know we've covered already. Just before we close off, though, just want to give you some information about some websites that you might want to have a look at, just to further your understanding of careers. So I've got on the screen there, I've got details of all 4 colleges in Hertfordshire. So Hertford Regional College, where Sharon is representing today, but also North Herts College, for those of you up sort of Stevenage Hitchin Way, West Herts College and Oaklands College, you all offer variation of childcare courses. So those QR codes will take you directly to those pages on there as well. I've also added the QR code there so you could have a look directly at Care First Training's website. So that's the organisation that Johan and Toyin are talking, have been speaking to you from today. And that will give you information about any current vacancies they've got, or perhaps there'll be some more guidance on there. I had a look at it earlier. So some really good guidance just in general there about applying for apprenticeships and the process that may entail. Really, then that's all we've got to cover today. So thank you so much to Johan, to Toyin and to Sharon for giving up your busy time to come and talk to us all today and to share your own experiences. For those of you watching, thank you so much for giving up your time when you come home from school and logging into this webinar and contributing to it. We really hope it's been useful. Really hope it's going to help you make the next really key decisions that you're going to make about your future careers. And hopefully there's a bit of inspiration there as well. And just a reminder about just how important it is that we've got, particularly in Hertfordshire, enough people coming through the system that can provide those childcare roles for us all. So well done to all of you. Best of luck with the next steps in your careers, and have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you for having us.
Cheers.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.